It's Tom Sidney Bushnell, aka Numbers, here from Sight Club and from the Tom Numbers Show, both of my channels. I've got two great guests here that I'm bringing together. One, we've got Ana Marins from Brazil. She's probably the biggest truther patriot in Brazil, but she's a big fan of yours, so she's wanted to come on the show for a while. So I thought it was appropriate.
Well, that's fantastic. I mean, Brazil, with what's going on there right now, this is a very important opportunity to bring people up to speed on what's going on. So I'm so thankful that you pulled that together for us, Tom.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor to be fighting in the same ground field as you both.
Well, there's plenty of room.
Okay, we can manage that.
There's room for more to join up. We've got room shoulder up. Let's get everybody in here as much as possible. So, but Brazil, for those that haven't seen this over the last really many weeks, but especially the last 72 hours or so, the Brazilian people have really stepped forward and are making it very clear in mass that they're not content with what's transpired there. And the reports that we're getting here, it's not even just Brazil, it's into other countries in the region. One of the reasons that I've always followed Brazil, it was one of the countries that we used their currency when we did the exchanges in order to take out the Russian ruble. And so it was German Deutschmark, it was Japanese yen, and it was the Brazilian currency, which, part of the thing that people also don't understand, the largest population of Japanese outside of Japan proper is in Brazil. So there's this connection to Asia and Brazil that most people, in the United States have no clue about, no concept of. And, there's a relationship there that I've always enjoyed of these people. So why don't you give us your insights? You're there on the spot right now. What's going on?
Since last night, it all happened in a blink of an eye, as I was expecting something to happen. Since Bolsonaro was elected in 2018, he has been very much loved by the crowds. He's a truly like an idol to many people. They cry because of Bolsonaro. They follow every step, every social media, him and his family. And he's very in his tears, he's bringing back the spirit of a hero. Okay, he embodied this character for the last 4 years. And when people felt Bolsonaro was being taken out, which we all know it's a movie, and I try to explain to people that it's all a movie. You have to pay attention to the codes, you have to check the symbols, connect the dots, check the right people, and not to be in your emotions, but to know how incredible and how intelligent, most of all, this plan is, and everyone is part of this. So everything is moving along. We have to know that we are those that we were waiting for. We are all those that are. I have this music from Les Miserables, the scene when they all go to the streets and they are seeing the parade, the military parade, and they, in a quiet voice, they come louder and louder, saying, "We are not going to be slaves again." So this is really happening in front of our eyes. That's
Well,
how
and
I
one of the
feel.
places on the planet that slavery was very common, not that far back, was Brazil. And in fact, Brazil was one of the places where they used face masks on the people that were slaves, and that was very heavy common practice. There's something in the DNA of the Brazilian people that I think is even unique across South America, that is just a different imprint on how what they will take and how they will take it. And of course, even the granted, the gangs, the cabals and like that are cartels and like that have been all over in Brazil or all over in South America, with the things that happen in Colombia, stuff that's going on over in Bolivia, even Venezuela. Brazil has somehow not fallen into a lot of that completely, even though there's been so many attempts by these different groups to do that. And it has to do with the Brazilian personality. Brazil, you have really a couple different languages there, with the Portuguese, the English, people coming in from various parts of the world, where it's a more blended country, very similar in South America to what the United States is here in North America, with this very homogenized population. And so they have a personality that's almost a mirror of America in so many ways that are lost. If you're gonna pull South America out of this dive, Brazil is going to lead the way.
I appreciate that words, and I believe that, sir, Brazil have the heritage, this melting pot that we are also over here in Brazil. The Japanese, as you said, the Africans that came here through the slave trafficking, and the Europeans. My heritage is European, so Portuguese and French. But most of all, I believe the native blood that still runs in our veins, it's very much alive. And we can maybe, I don't know if I do have any blood of Native Brazilians, but I think that people fight wildly, bravely for their land. And when they see someone who is embodied, who has the same will, they will fall in love. And I think that's what happened to Bolsonaro. And I try not to pay much more attention to politics as I had, in the same perspective that I had. Thank God I changed and I matured, as I told Tom, since the beginning, right, Tom? We matured very much in the course of this last 2 years and a half almost. And I see that in Brazil over the streets. I went to in front of the headquarters. I've seen people being so human, with capital H, not humans just in their bodies. They take care of each other. Suddenly the rain was pouring out over us, and I didn't notice there was a lady opening her umbrella and giving me. No, I have this is something very much in Brazil. We embrace one another. We love passionately one another. And I think, well, yesterday was, we know there are still, I don't know, the first idea that I had, we are witnessing our version of 9/11. Oh, 9/11. I'm sorry.
6th.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. And the 6th.
Well, and of course,
Brazil.
6th here there was an alleged where people were baited to go into the congressional, and if the people behind this had been successful, the congressional offices would have been occupied, and you'd had a standoff and all sorts of things that have been there for days or weeks. In Brazil, what was alleged to have been trying to happen in Washington, D.C. actually did happen, because the people showed up at their congressional building and in fact did take it over. And the folks like Lulu and others had to leave to other parts of the allegedly city, but actually the region. So that's the context there. Did I say that right?
Perfectly. Yes, of course. And yesterday, all the buildings were damaged in a way that even Bolsonaro came to the social media saying that he does not agree with destruction of anything. Yeah, and I said that over my channel here in Brazil, letting people say we don't take arms, we do it peacefully, we don't do no harm to one another. And that was a destruction. It was, of course, a circus over. That's my reading over this situation. It's a circus. We have infiltration, but of course they are infiltrated as well. So we attack after they attack us. So it's a matter of time. Everything's coming. Like watching Lula, watching his inauguration last week was tremendously embarrassing for someone who voted for him. The Brazilians are very much skilled on checking the symbols and checking the differences, how it happened to Bolsonaro 4 years ago and how it's happening over here right now. And it's being massive. All the Brazilians are sharing, being real life journalists. You see, they are sharing everything. Oh, he didn't sign the correct document. This is all fake. It's all fake. You have to pay attention. You have to see the little details. So they are very much learned. They learn very quickly. They learn very quickly over here. That's, I don't know, my perspective over Brazil. It's the future. My grandfather, I was talking to Tom about my grandfather. My grandfather always told me, Brazil is going to be the future. And he was a Portuguese. And he said that he never left Brazil because it was the country that made his life possible. Because Portugal, in the early 50s, my grandfather had to leave his home country. He left. But my grandfather had to leave his
He'll be back
his home country. Should I continue, Tom?
Yeah.
Really, you did? Okay.
Yeah, he'll be back in.
He had to leave his country because he didn't have the money to eat. His father asked him to leave. It was better for him to leave. So this is the blood in my veins that I have this fight for what is right.
Let me just
I'm sorry,
let
sir.
me just mention this. You know, we were talking about President Bolsonaro, and of course he came to the United States last week, and you know, I don't know that it's known in Brazil right now what's going on. He's the family's living in Florida, in a particular area of Florida. But President Bolsonaro was stabbed back in 2018 during the election, and someone tried to assassinate him, and it was in the stomach. There's been some issues going on there, of course, during all of the election, and then all of the drama over the last a couple of months. Certainly the stress, the tension, everything else, and then the need not to be distracted. But you know, he has gone in for some treatment and is in the hospital right now. And so he and the family could use a lot of prayer. I think this is more of a, there's some pain there that can be relieved by, some procedures. And so I don't think this is like a life and death thing or like that, but it's just, maintenance that needed to be done to help sort some of that out, is my understanding. And, but, anytime you're in that kind of condition, he's dealing with, it's more than just, getting to be in political office. It's part of his being to put himself at risk, to be out there in that environment, and then to have suffered like that and stay the course and continue on, do this fight. It goes to his personality. The Brazilian people are well served. He's there to try to complete a mission that he believes has to be done for the Brazilian people, in spite of even these physical obstacles. There's plenty of people would have said, I gotta give up. I've done my part, and it's just too much ordeal, risk, hassle, whatever. He's still in the fight, and my hat's off to him. He's a beautiful person. Certainly, like anybody in public life, there's all sorts of things that go on. You're going to find a perfect person? Nope. But he has, worked very hard to do something very important for the Brazilian people and the opposition. Again, Brazil is very much in the same situation that the United States is. There's a drug problem. It's coming in from China. The cartels are using the money from the drug trade to finance the overthrow of governments and to undermine the population at the youth level primarily. And so Brazil and America are facing a very similar issue. The issues going on in Brazil right this second, and I don't know that it's been reported widely yet, but you have neighboring countries that are also falling into some civil chaos. And so this could spread out in a wider sense in South America. There's a lot at stake here over what's happening in Brazil. I think I mentioned that we got cut off a few minutes ago, but I was just mentioning that the largest population outside of Japan of Japanese people is in Brazil. And so you have a huge relationship to Asia in the trade, even the family level, and into other regions of Central and South America. So, there's been, you certainly had issues back during Iran-Contra and the Russians in Eastern South America. And then you had the Shining Path that the Chinese were managing, a militarized criminal drug gangs and cartels trying to overthrow governments. And of course, part of the, not even just similar to what happened here in the United States, but by the very same people. So the threat to representative government being able to exist anywhere in the world is from the same cartel. They're dealing drugs, and the people that they can put in office will benefit. So they work these little deals. It's literally a criminal operation to get just the right people in office to protect their criminal enterprises. Is that your read on this also? Did I say that right?
No, you said, oh my gosh, sir. Yeah, of course, you said it perfectly. I had this line when I was growing up that about this drug trafficking and all the trafficking that happens over here for centuries. And I had this line that they all, the owners of the business, they live by the sea, but the agents live inside of the slums. I visited some slums just out of curiosity and out of, I need to know how dangerous it really was. Of course, I went in a group of tourists in my own city. I had to pay to go inside of a place, and I felt, I said, even an American was with me in the group, and he asked, how can a person have this view so beautiful in the slums in your city, and you don't do anything? And I said, wow. I was like a gut punch. And I said, yeah, we should be questioning this. It was 10 years ago. I was questioning since then, and how we keep living by this. And now we understand that it's all three agent letters, 3 agencies letter plan to corrupt the people, and in a massive galactic perspective the plan goes, right? But I don't know.
Part of the issue is that you have an alignment that's happened between these intelligence agencies operating in multiple countries with some of the criminal organizations under the auspices of managing, say, the drug trade, or managing the infiltration of some of these other groups, but then they get blended and co-opted to the extent that they're no longer protecting us from the monsters. They're working with them, but managing it. And somewhere we've lost our own personal citizen control. It's other people who are inside the government deciding what's good for us, and what we should hear in the media, and controlling the media you hear, because that controls how you vote, controls what you don't want or do want. And there's a globalist aspect to this to manage us, that it's not about how our lives go, it's how they can make our lives matter for their globalist operations, and somehow fit us in to some bigger global picture. And we're just along the ride. They're running us through the cattle chute to slaughter. And that's why you had, here in the US on June 1st, before certifying it. And in Brazil, you have way more than a couple million that showed up in Brasilia over the last couple of days. I don't know what the crowd number is. It's
500. 500,000. 500?
500,000. Yeah.
Yes, that was the number. Yes, I was paying attention to compare with the January's.
Well, I think it might be even higher than that. Brasilia, people don't realize it's actually a very remote region inside of Brazil. They decided to build the capital there to just start from scratch. So it's very hard to get to Brasilia. It's not super simple. No. And then you had other protests in other parts of the country. So if you look at the other protests cumulatively around the country, plus that exact location there at the capital, it's millions. Even to get the number there in Brasilia into the capital area for that protest is pretty dramatic. I mean, I'm not overstating it, am I?
No, not at all. No, I knew people that were taking buses and taking big cars to go over there, just to peacefully protest, just to be in front of with the others. You see, they were not expecting to see any destruction, not at all. What happened yesterday was a circus. That's my line for this. It's a circus of I don't know if it's something necessary for the others to pay attention, but it's a it's a battlefield. It's a battlefield. So what I've been hearing is also that people were, like a year ago, were still pushing to about Bolsonaro. They now tend to see, I give my life for this. I don't want to go to hell. This is already the hell.
Yes.
Fight.
Well, again,
if I have to die, I'm willing to. It's a near-death experience. So they are living through this moment, I believe.
Yes. Well, I mean, they're not, it's now, it's, if they don't recapture it, what the government begins to look like and work like, um, you know, will go very much into a state, I think. I think that's what people are afraid of. That's why they've decided to act now before it gets any more momentum. That's my perception. Of course, I'm not there in Brazil right now, but I think that the folks that I've talked with, that's their perception.
Yeah, as I said, I think it's all necessary, and I'm willing to give my life to this, and I already did. So what I think is that it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a fairy tale, but it's a fairy tale. Let me tell you, we are going to win this, but we have to. We know the destination. We don't know the journey, and we are willing to go this path. Brazilians are not looking for picanha, as the President Lula offered to many others, which is a meat. It's a piece of meat. So everyone will have their picanha. They are not willing to this. They want morals. They want values, what we are. They don't want the agendas inside of their children's school. I'm pushing people, take your children out of school if necessary. They still, oh, how do I do that? How, I don't know, you manage, but do it. Otherwise, it's your children will, I don't know, have different paradigms and different references. What I want to say is that Brazilians are very much awake maybe in this political way. They don't like this candidate. They hate him. They are expecting the Harry to come forth. That's the true wish they have. But I tell them, I wouldn't be willing I wouldn't be expecting this. I would be expecting something greater, something that you've never seen before. Oh, you're the crazy girl. So I wish I can bring more crazies to my side and to this, because for me, as I don't know if Tom got this on record, but this, to me, this is the best moment in my life when I'm seeing God everywhere. I'm seeing many opportunities everywhere. I'm meeting people all over the world through this movement that we are. And I feel I'm serving my father. And this is the most beautiful moment for a person to be celebrating, to be here, like to
Well, let me
do
ask you
what
something.
others didn't have the opportunity to do. I'm sorry. Yeah,
No,
I'm sorry.
I didn't
Please.
mean to interrupt you. You know, let me ask you this.
Mhm.
Within the population in Brazil, do you think that the fact that you have, it's so close by the deterioration in Venezuela,
Mhm.
and then the not that far back history in Argentina with Galtieri and
Mhm.
all of the people, you know, your age
Mhm.
and younger who were being
Mhm.
disappeared under that harsh regime, and you know, mothers having to go protest with pictures of their kid, but they couldn't even say anything for fear of arrest. They just marched in the square with pictures of their missing children until the numbers became so great that the people wouldn't stand for it anymore and overthrew the government. And of course, then tried all of those criminals. You know, that's like right there breathing down your throat. You have a number of countries with recent history of very harsh regimes and falling into some kind of chaos that was a horror. Do you think Brazilians, the reason they're being so proactive, they're being so aggressive right now in Brasilia and around the country, is that they're concerned about falling into that kind of disorder and you know, chaos? I mean, if all you got to do is look at the refugees out of Venezuela. It's, that's a collapsed government. Brazil is a relatively rich country, but it could be in that situation in no time at all. Do you think that's what's motivating so many people to say, no, we've got to act now?
I believe they in 2014, this real time happening for the first time, and all that sparked in the Brazilians, in the Brazilian people, especially in me, that I need to move along. I didn't want to comply to any kind of agenda. I have my life. I want my life back. That's it. And I think this is the most part of Brazilians. So we got much more engaged, especially when Bolsonaro came along and came along, okay, to the scenario as a candidate and as a person who was bridging us from a communist government to a much more aligned, patriotic, conservative, like normal way. It's not about take out all these names, these labels. It's the normal way. This is how I was raised. You work, you receive. No one tells you what to do. You follow what you have inside of you, your values. So I think they are much more engaged on this movement. They don't fear that, but in the same time, most of the time they felt, oh, it's happening over there, it's not here yet. So when it really hit Brazilians, the possibility of seeing again Lula taking the highest office in Brazil, after being convicted, after being investigated, after a large scale, a massive robbery. It's a massive operation. It's a criminal organization that was established in Brazil during his government. Oh my gosh, I'm saying all this. During his periods of, I don't know, time in office. And before that, everyone kind of understood what was really happening to Brazil. And then came Bolsonaro. Okay, so we have a bridge. They didn't think about God in that moment, but they saw Bolsonaro as a bridge, and they follow along that bridge. Okay, so the bridge, it's done. It's done for now. It's done. Okay, so now they will keep the fight. So they are not afraid. I don't know if I'm talking too much, but they are not afraid. We are not afraid. In Brazil, we are not afraid of anything. We never had the opportunity of the American way of life. It's so different from Brazil. It's so different. It's so different from here. And I try to explain to Tom the difference in Latin America. We are surviving in a survival mode since, I don't know, since the day they arrived here. The Portuguese arrived here with the English money to come to Brazil. And afterwards, when we became a colony of the bankers, we were trade. We are slave trading. We are being traded. We are slaves.
Yes, you're traded as slaves.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, since day zero, they planned to come here to do that. And when they did what they did to United States, it's similar over here. They are much more clever now. There are a lot of people talking through YouTube. There are a lot of people, good ones and bad ones. I am a good one. I'm in a group of the small people, which are the good fighters. What I say, we are not afraid. We will go all the way. And we will never be afraid because we never knew a different life. And we want this different life. And I think Bolsonaro brought this spark to everyone. Only the spark, it's possible, okay? I don't know, I'm not judging the person. I'm not talking about a person, about what he said. He said what everyone wished to say out loud, and he did. He's a strong man for a strong fight. He has a military background. He has German blood and also Italian blood, so he's passionate. He's really passionate. Although he's born in Brazil, he has European roots. Well, what I will say about our neighbors, we see their struggle. We see their struggle, but we never ever had the chance to ask, "Oh, are you going to fight?" Yes, we are going to fight. Am I
Well,
talking too much, Tom? I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry, sir.
I wanted to let you kind of go because, you know, part of what Americans and other parts of the country could maybe see parallels in Brazil. You had a period kind of like we had with the Obama administration, and where there was very serious questions about and then you had a period with Bolsonaro similar to what we had with Trump getting into office, got a taste of things being done a different way, and then the Brazilian people got a taste of getting, you know, back to personal freedoms and less government and things like that, and they want to keep going. Bolsonaro, you know, is willing to stay in the fight, so he hasn't really dropped away. The local situation why he left the country is because they're threatening to arrest him, and then and his family, and that just couldn't happen. So he has to leave to go continue the fight. But the Brazilian people, of course, with the demonstrations in Brasilia, and then out in other parts of the country, it's fairly dramatic. You know, there's people drawing analogies that it's similar in the United States, but it is different. The protesters in the United States were baited into in Brasilia. It's a very remote area. They built the capital out there to have it be able to grow, etc. And so you can't get there easily from the rest of Brazil. So you've got protests in other parts of Brazil, but you know, practically the whole population of Brasilia showed up. Lula first went to the outskirts of town and now has gone to another part of the country. So there's, you know, this is going to continue to grow. It's getting to be a bigger deal by the hour right now. And then you've got things going on in neighboring countries at the same time you have it going on in Brazil. So this is kind of spreading in the region with protests about the way these governments are being put into power by drug cartels and communists to control the people and to protect themselves. A comparison would be Escobar, who wanted to get into power in Colombia, and had he secured power, you'd have literally had the drug cartels running Colombia, and the people fought back, and he was not able to finally get there. Brazil is in that kind of a struggle once again, and that's this moment you're in. Is that correct? Am I saying it the right way?
Perfect, sir. Yes. About Brasilia, Brasilia was built in a massive crystal that we have in the central part of Brazil. So the land over there are so beautiful places, like paradise. You would think that you are out of world. You see, I don't know, lagoons and crystals. And Brasilia was strategically designed to be where it is. It has the shape of they say it's a plan, but it's not a plane. It's a god from Egypt, Isis. I don't know You probably know about this. And all the location in Brasilia, it as DC, it has the exact numbers and coordinates. So it's a cult that it's happening over there.
Well,
It's a
and so let
cult.
me just add this.
Mhm.
The reason that they built Brasilia the way they did, where they did, they wanted a clean sheet of paper for the new capital. And so several decades ago, they laid out this capital city area, but they did so based on Masonic designs, just as has happened in the American capital and other places. So it is just like Washington, D.C., it really is a cult that cult members laid out the roadmap for how the city would be built, the orientations of the various buildings on the numbers, and the symbology of all of the buildings. It's the same thing as we see in Washington, D.C. And so the population that's there, this was this spectacularly beautiful portion of the country that it's a gem. You say a crystal, it's just a fabulous area that then they built it, almost in the perfect park-like setting to be a showcase to the world. But it's also extremely hard to get to from other areas of Brazil. It's almost landlocked. There's just a couple of roads in and out. It's easier to fly to Brasilia than it is to drive there from anywhere else in the country. And
Yeah.
so
My dad took once he said he was driving because my grandfather was involved in the construction of all the Brasilia. It changed his life financially. He came from Portugal with no expectations about Brazil. He always said, I wish I asked for a country that was warm. And then in the port, over the port, they said, go to Brazil then. Then he came here. And he was a constructor with his own hands. He was constructing a museum over here in Rio, where I live, which was our previous capital, a stunning city. And he was building this museum, and the builder, it's one of the most famous architects in Brazil, Lúcio Costa. He invited my grandfather to go to Brasilia. And then my grandfather said, yeah, I will go, and went back to work. Portuguese, he went back to work. And when he got there, he spent hours and hours. My grandfather had very much love for Brasilia because of how it changed his life and the possibilities that it provided him, and it provided to me, of course, from my dad, and first for my dad and then to me. And but he always said it's a very remote country. It's a very remote place in the country. You have to go and stay. Like, you don't have much to do over there unless you are in politics. But I've never been to Brasilia. You imagine that I have been to DC more than 5 times already as a tourist, and I've never been to Brasilia because I don't like the energy. I don't like this politics energy. I love Rio, and I would really love to see Rio again as the state of Guanabara. I don't know how it would be called right now, the new capital, because of the buildings and all the energy, all the hot spots they have here in Rio. I may be talking too much. Tom, you want to jump in?
Well, talking of capitals and DC, so you got some nice numbers there, Juan. You said a clean sheet of paper for the new capital. A clean sheet of paper is 170, bolt of lightning. Matt Letizia, our soccer legend buddy, but also for the new capital comes to 176, which is Back to the Future, which brings me to some things that you said earlier. off screen, we were talking about the Brunson case, and I wanted to go into that with you, but you said that we've still got 5 appeals. Now, the interesting thing about that in terms of the numbers on 5 appeals comes to 112, which comes to victory. And we have 5 appeals comes to 176, Back to the Future, which comes to For the New Capital. And I did these numbers maybe a few weeks ago, but I was reminded of them. So I'll put these numbers out, but then I'll preface it with a question. The 176th day of the year is June 24th. 176 is Back to the Future. We have 5 appeals is 176. For the New Capital is also 176. But the 176th day of the year is June 24th, and June 24th is comes to 206. But it's the 176th day of the year, and 206 is day 176. So I'm wondering if there's something with that. But my question earlier, I wanted to ask you about the thing of the appeals with the Brunson case, because if people don't know yet, like you'd mentioned earlier, it's been rejected, but you said we have 5 appeals. I'm wondering, is there an expected time frame on these 5 appeals? Are we looking at kind of every couple of weeks, every few months for each appeal? Could this go on for maybe, another year and a half, or could it maybe lead us into somewhere in a sort of summer region? And after that, I wanted to talk about Kevin McCarthy, because there's some great correlations on that. And also, I would like to talk about the moon, because I was listening to a guy that was in Anaheim, I believe, and you did a show a couple of weeks ago. Can't remember his name, so you have to forgive me on that. But you were talking about the infrastructure of the moon, which I thought was really fascinating. I thought guests would really enjoy that. So if we could talk about Brunson case, 5 appeals, time frame on that, Kevin McCarthy, and then into the moon. If that's all right with both of you, Juan and Anna. And also,
I
when
don't know if I
Anna's
have
saying
time to
calling
get
you
into the
sir,
moon stuff.
46
I
is
don't know
Doug, which is Juan, 46. Go on, sorry, Juan.
Yeah, I don't know if we have time to get into the moon too much today, but I will say this.
Okay, we'll do that next time.
By the way, the counterpoint to December 25th is June 24th. It's 3 days after the summer solstice. And so just so you know, and of course that's the Misruling King, the Saturnus Festival, and that whole celebration. But of course, if you're talking about Brazil, that's their midwinter solstice. So, and a counterpoint to the one in North America. As far as the Brunson case, that the Supreme Court denied the case, I had warned your audience, and I think every other audience I spoke with, that they have to keep their emotions in check, that the likelihood we were going to get through and get heard by the Supreme Court was very low, but not impossible. Now, these appeals, we have 5 appeals, but part of the point with these appeals is judges, especially on a case like this, if there's even a little bit off in the way it's presented or something's not there, and remember, they were limited in the number of pages they could have in the appeal to Supreme Court. I think it was 135 pages. So there's a lot of stuff that people were like, why didn't they have this in there? How come they didn't cover that? Because it's a very limited thing. Now that they have the opportunity to appeal, and then others can bring in their amicus briefs and things like that, that can continue to build out and test other directions and see if the court actually agrees, but with a slightly different emphasis in there. And we've had a number of folks that have been discussing this with us. I spent time yesterday with people who are licensed to practice before the Supreme Court discussing these things, and they were actually pretty universal. They didn't expect this to get through, but also very optimistic that with certain modifications, the court might see this differently and willing to provide some of that assistance. Now, the thing is that the way the court asked for it initially, and then the modification that had to be made when the 10th Circuit went ahead and denied it, because originally it was going to come up as a emergency from the brothers, because the 10th Circuit went ahead and gave a decision, then that was changed again by the brothers to just the case going forward to the Supreme Court. So the court received it as a matter of national emergency, but now the appeal can do different things than they had originally. And there's some stuff that may be done that changes the case so that when the court makes a decision, courts, this is a case of first impression. It's setting a precedence for future cases. So they want to make sure they get it right on the numbers. And so there's modifications that can be made that may suit where the court wants to go. And the court's, supposed to be officiating. So you have to bring the case and make the case. And they're not creating the law, they're deciding concerning matters of the law. So the minutia of how you present a case like this can be very important as far as the court's concerned. So now we get a chance to hone what's going on and come back and see if we can get it right, where the court goes, yes, this is the way we wanted it presented, and we can make a determination based on this way of doing it as opposed to another. So we get 5 bites at the apple that way. And then there's 2 other cases in the pipeline, one from the Brunsons and another one that, coming from other slightly different directions, that the court could be addressed with this again. Is the court not wanting to see this? I don't think that's the interpretation that any of the players have. We now begin this process of getting the case honed and the remedy honed in such a way that the court can act, and set new precedents or law. I wouldn't be discouraged in the slightest. We're in a pretty good shape. And more importantly, at a different level, we have many more Americans now that understand what's going on, having discussed this, heard pieces of it. The exchange of information between citizens has helped to clarify this issue. Congress certified an election after the Director of National Intelligence said there was, and it was significant, and said that publicly. And then after they certified the election, additional reports came in saying the same thing. So the question is, how wise was Congress to do that? And whether or not you toss them out as though they didn't protect the Constitution, is there still investigative issues that are going to reveal more things showing that there was this, with Trump as the de facto leader of the House and that crew of people going to work in the House now, they're going to have investigations, and it'll be the other side of the January. And I suspect we're going to find out all sorts of things that are really going to tick off the American people and show how this was done. So, this is far from over, far from over.
You talk about the House one. So when the news came out about Kevin McCarthy, I did the numbers on this, and you sent me a text which confirmed this connection about President Trump. So I'll just share the numbers, but maybe you want to go into the text and the info that you know about it all. But so Kevin is 61, McCarthy is 91, and that's 152. President Trump said, interesting enough, about reclaiming a couple of weeks ago. Is one? Yeah, one's still there. Reclaim is 61, which is Kevin. But anyway, McCarthy's 91, which is Space Force, which is Future, which is Liberty. So Kevin McCarthy, Reclaim Liberty. But we'll just hold that thought. And then House Speaker. House is 68, which is Mar-a-Lago. It's Wayne, it's Barron, it's Stock, it's Market, it's a few things. But then Speaker is 75, which is eternal, which is magic wand. It's funding. President Trump has spoken many times about a magic wand or magic wand. Magic wand is 75, and that comes to 143, which is an important day for Back to the Future, November 5th. It's Melania Trump. It's ground zero. It's building 7. On a personal note, it's Paul Bushnell, my cousin. He was a big part of the numbers and still is for me. But if you do Kevin McCarthy, 152, Bournemouth, where I am at the moment, House Speaker, 143, that comes to 295, which comes to President Donald John Trump. And the text that you sent me an hour or two after that confirmed that that number code about basically that Trump is, and you said it just a minute ago, that he's kind of a de facto, in the Speaker of the House, basically. So yeah, so maybe if you want to go into that, but the numbers again confirm that.
May I say something, Tom, before Juan keeps talking? Kevin 6-1, Brazil is 6-1.
That's true. Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Anna.
You see?
Well, let me just add this, that the way that this is important on what happened with McCarthy, there's certain rules about how Congress is going to operate that are everybody agrees on, and the Speaker kind of sets the tone for how we're going to do stuff. So what happened was that when those votes were going and there wasn't enough votes for McCarthy to get the seat, then they were doing negotiations. And it'd be like saying, okay, we all showed up and we're going to play a game on the field here. I want to play American football. And somebody else says, no, I want to play European football. Well, they're both football, but they're not anywhere close to the same game, okay? The ball shape isn't the same. The engagement between players isn't the same. One's a contact sport and one isn't. The refs have to be chosen to, what way they're going to play this game. It's like sitting down for a card game, and are we playing blackjack, poker, Texas Hold'em, 21, bridge? What kind of a game we playing here? So the agreement that was come to by the players over time was how are the rules going to be? And the most important rule was this, how would you go about changing the Speaker if you really wanted to, if there was a problem, and the way that would work, and then how certain heads of the various committees were going to be chosen, and what their subject matter was, because the Speaker is the first place, then the Speaker picks committee heads for various types of work they're going to do during the legislative session. And, are we going to look at, how ports are organized? Are we going to look at how the Judicial Committee, etc.? So there was this back and forth during all of those elections. And it wasn't until the rules were agreed upon concerning, there was a certain group that was this mega group of 20 representatives, that without that mega group agreeing on something, if they did a confidence vote, which is what this rules thing was all about, they could vote out the Speaker. So if McCarthy decided, somewhere behind the scenes, McCarthy's being managed by someone or a group of people, lobbyists, special interests, friends, supporters, etc. So if they twist his arm, we want to do this, and we want you to go there. We want you to not let there be an investigation on this. If McCarthy started to go someplace that group of 20 people, who are really a very tightly cohesive group of Make America Great Again candidates, all of whom were Trump supported, if that 20 decides that McCarthy's doing something that challenges their agenda, which is the Trump agenda, then they can do a confidence vote. And if McCarthy doesn't hit the 218, then he's out. And so he could start going and deviating and not doing the committees right, not putting the right committee heads on, trying to block evidence from being considered. And that 20, any one of them can say, I want a confidence vote, what amounts to a confidence vote. It's a roll call. And if those 20 decide we're not going to back him, McCarthy is out as speaker. All business stops. And now they got to keep voting and voting and voting till they get a new speaker that everybody can agree on. So it's not even that McCarthy would do something that somebody would piss him off. The people behind him, they can't arm twist him too far, because if they take him too far, they know it's out of McCarthy's capability. He has no control. That 20 people who are under Trump's control that block that gives him enough votes to stay in power. And if they don't agree that he's going to be in power, he's out. So he can't, just do anything he wants. And Trump is in very tight connection with that 20. And then there's a half dozen that would be the ones that they're going to pick for committee heads in some of these special committees. And ultimately where this is going in the House is that we're going to have investigations of the three-letter agencies, FBI, CIA, National Reconnaissance Office, everything over at Homeland Security, CISA, the Cyber Infrastructure Security team. So looking at the digital and other things, and including the overthrow of governments in other places around the world with orange revolutions, such as what was done up in Ukraine and pieces of what's going on in South America and Brazil. That's why I call this year the year of the whistleblower, because there's a lot of people that were trying to get their information out and that were being blocked all along over the last decade or two. And they're about to get a chance to come forward in those committee hearings and before. There's a number of them that don't want to testify, but in the right environment, they'll make sure that the information somehow finds its way out into the public, and then adjust the course of the conversation. And it's not just US whistleblowers, it's people from other places, including people inside some of the crime syndicates who will leak information for various reasons that then is useful in taking out their opposition. The Chicago mob doesn't like the New York mob, doesn't like the Vegas mob type of thing. And there's going to be some confusion between the different organizations. The Sinaloa cartel is in some type of a civil war right now. Even the breakout of conflicts in the countries spreading out around South America near Brazil is indicative not just that the people are having problems with their governments, that's the crime syndicates, the cartels, where they are cross-border trying to control who's going to win in this situation where there's a vacuum of power politically. The criminals take up in that vacuum of power and they exercise control. And the people at some certain point have to decide if they're going to let the mob control their regions or whether they are going to take some kind of local control and policing, because the actual government that they've voted for and hired is dysfunctional and is not protecting the people. Does that click for you? Does that sound right to you where you're at?
Perfect. And that comes to Le Miserable, Victor Hugo, when he said, when the people sing, do you
Les
hear
Miserables.
the people sing? Yeah, singing the song of angry men. This is the song of a people who will not be slaves again. So I think that all this situation, it's being like the EBS, it's already here and happening real time. That's my understanding of all this. And by doing that, you implode the system from inside out. You see, showing the people, showing the figures, showing the characters.
Yes.
That's my right. So, and that happened in Brazil. What you do, it's you push forward. You set them on the stage. You have to put them in the stage and play. Let's play. Let's orchestrate the play, right? And by doing that, they don't have the masters anymore. So
Let me ask
Put
you
the monsters
this.
in the boxes.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Go ahead.
I was just doing your quote one of just saying putting the monsters in the boxes.
yeah.
Well, you know, the one of the questions is the population in the Brazil pretty evenly divided on what's gone on with Lula in the election, or is there? And I sometimes say Lulu because that's a common term that we use here in the U.S., but I mean Lula, so I apologize when I said that. It wasn't trying to be snarky or something. I just was a oversight on my part. Do you think the population on the whole is that divided, or do you think that it is truly a majority of the people that believe there's something wrong with the election that are coming in opposition to this? In other words, is it, you know, closer to a civil war where it's 50-50, or do you think the majority of the people recognize something happened and are trying to overturn that on the numbers? Do you think it's, you know, a big enough number to decisively shut this down?
I don't think the people that are there's this situation that they put a label in Bolsonaro, and many people do not go with Bolsonaro. They don't like Bolsonaro, and it's not evenly. It's much more for our side. I see people, but not because of Bolsonaro, because of the values of Christ and what it's right to do. They cannot stand anymore. You see, they are tired, they are exhausted of this kind of life, but they do not have the information about what it's coming, because all the information, all the information, our movement, it's over here. It's very much attached to the figure, to the character Bolsonaro, and that kind of avoid new people to join us, to join in, to go for it. But the population, it's much more into what it's right, and we will fight. I will take my kids to see what's happening. They're good. They are good people. You see, the bad ones are those who are living out of the system. Oh, because they are in the medical industry, and because they have a status kind of life, the prestige kind of life they want to keep. Okay, it's done. Okay, when you're fed up, okay, I'll be here telling you the truth. But until they have to let go what the globalist agenda sold as a very good thing for them to have attached to their lives, and it comes from the 70s, from the 60s. I have friends older than I am, in their 80s, and they cannot see that. They cannot see that. I try to explain.
I'm glad they're older than you, Anna, if they're in their 80s.
I'm just young outside, but I'm an old soul. But yeah, I try to explain, and it's the MK Ultra, I don't know, over their heads, over their lives. And I have this quote that I tend to repeat to myself: how much of you are you willing to let go to have more of you? You see, because this is something that I cannot ask many people. Now I'm asking here on Tom, how much of you want to let go so you can receive more of you, because we are rebirthing. This is the best time of life. This is real life. It's
Yes.
not.
Well, there's a certain value, sense of ownership that both in America and in Brazil, it felt like we were losing control of our country, our lives. Even though we haven't got it resolved yet, we are seeing more and more of the population beginning to, I don't know if it's take action, but they are paying attention and becoming educated about this again. And now it's moving into a direction where, there's a sense that there's something to be reclaimed, recaptured, because it's been steered away, even as harsh words as stolen, but I don't think that's inaccurate, with the government and who would steal it. It's not just insiders stealing it like a mob group for their own benefit at some local level. It's a globalist agenda to move control of how America works and who gets to benefit, and what the objectives at the nation state level are, even where our army is deployed, by people outside the United States with a globalist perspective, where they have aims to manage and control the affairs of the whole world. And I think that's the perception of people in Brazil, that the government's no longer working on behalf of the people of Brazil. They're working on behalf of people with a global agenda that want to use Brazil as part of this broader mechanism to take over the world and manage how people live according to a global agenda, the 2030 and 2050 crowd.
Yes, and you can go with and talk sometimes with a simple person and explain this. She will get it. The person will get it, and because she felt we are, as you said in the beginning, what brings to Brazil's this liveliness. I don't know. This is something unique. I think it's Brazil trademark maybe. But we feel very much, and we feel that we need to take action, and we are taking action. People are organizing groups. They are in their way to Brasilia, in their way. Of course, they are not creating any mess. If they cannot go to the military headquarters, that's okay. They will engage on Telegram, on Instagram, YouTube. They connect easily, very easily, very, very easily.
Juan and Anna, it's interesting you said about military again. It's something I've been thinking and wanting to bring back to one of the previous points. There's a picture going around, and I don't know if it's current, but there's a picture of Kevin McCarthy shaking hands with another gentleman, and I don't know the other guy, but but then there's Ron DeSantis just behind them. So there's three guys. There's Kevin McCarthy kind of leaning kind of on a bench over towards another guy giving a handshake, and then Ron DeSantis is observing it. Are you familiar with the picture, Juan? Have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So there's just a couple of questions on it. So I don't know if it's actual current, if they're congratulating him for the victory, but there were some observations that I saw, and it's for people that know, the handshake is a I guess a secret handshake. It's, some people call it a patriarchal grip. So they shake and then they put the finger kind of over the wrist. And so they're saying, oh, look, Kevin McCarthy's not publicly everything that is, portrayed. But I did some numbers on it, and as with all of this, there's always a dark and a light thing to everything. And I didn't know the numbers on this, or if I did, I'd forgotten them. So patriarchal was 107, which is quantum, which is trumps, which is atonement, which is military, which is 20. And when I was doing the numbers on this, you mentioned the word 20, and then Anna's mentioned the word military as I'm bringing it back round. But some further things on it. So if you do patriarchal grip is 50, which is Donald. It's fight. So it's military fight, patriarchal grip, 157. Kevin McCarthy's 152, as we said earlier. That comes to 309. 309 comes to a phrase which is the shot heard around the world. 309, the 309th day of the year is November 5th, again, which is an important one that pops up. November 5th is 143, which is House Speaker. Kevin McCarthy's been, put in position as the House Speaker. But there's some other things with this that got me thinking. Because Ron DeSantis is in the picture. See, I was one that when I first discovered DeSantis a couple of years ago, I knew the numbers on him 138, and it was Donald Trump. I thought, oh, he's just, he's baby Trump. But then over time, I've seen that he's not what we would initially think. And you've spoken about that before, Juan. And but if you do patriarchal grip, Kevin McCarthy plus Ron DeSantis 138, it comes to 447, which comes to 369. They're the Tesla numbers. 369 is obviously this, it's a super important combination of numbers. But the remaining number is 78, which is Kennedy again. And so I was just looking at this, and from a bigger picture, there's always dark to light, and there's always more things. So I'm wondering if that picture's been put out and allowed to be put out to show truly who McCarthy is, but also on a light side, showing behind the scenes that higher technologies, higher beings, God things, Dove things, Tesla things, Kennedy things, President Trump things are working in the background, as they always are, for our humanity and for our benefit. So they're just some thoughts that came to me as I saw that picture. And it
Well,
was,
let me
you were
unwind
saying
this
just a
for
few
you.
things. Yeah.
This is really important. Just because you see a number that you ascribe a certain meaning to, 17 is the flip, the reversal, it's victory. It's the 17th book of the Bible, Esther. But on the sinister dark side, it's also the number of Osiris, the death and resurrection date of Osiris. It's as important to the people in the Osiris occult community as, say, 40 days and 40 nights for Noah, Christ fasting in the desert of 40 days, Egypt out in the Sinai for 40 years. 40 has a very specific meaning within the Christian circles. In the occult, you drop the zero. It's foundation. It's the basis of tetrahedron, four-pointed piece of matter, the simplest form of matter in 3 dimensions. So all of these numbers can have meaning to both sides. 369. Yes. Okay, so who's exercising the power number? Okay, 19, 19.5, 19.47. Both sides try to dominate on the numbers. And so they're sending communications within their ranks and against the other ranks. 5 is the number of grace to God's people, but it's the number of death and destruction in the cult. So the cult had the Pentagon built with 5 sides. And by the way, when did they break the ground for the Pentagon? 9/11, 1941. Why that date? It's the true birth date of Christ, but the devil is warring with God in heaven. Even having the winter solstice, over this period in December. What's Hanukkah about? It's the Festival of Lights. That's the conception date of Christ. And I've talked about that before. All of these numbers have dual meanings. And even within the cult, they have layered meanings. Even within Christianity, they have layered meanings. So I'm very cautious about running my life on the numbers, or I might see things that are very interesting and I take note of them. But I'm also not I'm not running my life by them. The other side runs their life by them because they think that by managing the numbers, they can control the outcomes. God laughs at them, their wisdom, their machinations. They get the soup stirred all just right. They get the cauldron all mixed up right with just the right everything. And God laughs at them and knocks the bowl over. Okay. This is, something that I do take note of. And ultimately, there's a fabric of the matrix that when it's all done, we'll see that God had control the whole way. But there's threads that look like it went to the other side, even like the Brunson thing. Look, if there's some aspect of the way the case was brought that the judges didn't want to have as part of this imprint on this case of first impression, to where it would affect the way the case is used in the future, then not hearing the case right now, knowing that the plaintiffs would then go back and modify it and could hit things, and there's certain hints that can be put out in various places. There's research. It also allows for new aspects to be brought in or emphasized in the way that they present in asking for reconsideration. With that in mind, and also the judges read newspapers too. It may be that with things that happened, even with McCarthy coming in office over the weekend, that there was a slight change. I can tell you that there's more than one person that says that the vote was 5-4 on Friday, and somewhere over the weekend, one vote was withdrawn before it was published today. I don't know the truth of that. I don't think anybody that's saying it for the most part probably truly does know it, but it's an interesting concept. Was something related to the way the McCarthy vote happened, made the justices decide that they want to pause, knowing full well that the case is going to be brought back to them again, and knowing there's two other aspects of this with other cases also coming. Take a deep breath. This is far from over. And having the court able to operate as a and lead the way, as opposed to the military having to lead the way, that's what took Venezuela completely off the edge of the planet. Venezuela is a horror right now. You're right next door to it there in Brazil. You know what's going on.
Yes, and
Do
it's
the Brazilian
very
people want to end
rich.
up like that?
No, not at all. And of course, no. And we want them to I don't know, to go back to what they were. They were extremely rich 100 years ago. People, I have friends that tell me the ladies that are in their 80s, and they tell me, I used to wear jewelry, my diamonds. Imagine that, my diamonds, to go to the beach. This is how rich Brazil was, and everyone had the chance to buy it. Like, not everyone, but I would say it was not uncommon for a person to gift another, like a husband to gift their wives with a coin, a golden coin for her bracelet for their wedding anniversary. This is tradition, and they want to go back to that time. Buenos Aires also. Buenos Aires is a beautiful city. It's another gem, architectural gem. It's a beautiful country, and it's a beautiful people over there. There are beautiful people over there. And all the Nazi infiltration that happened, they brought, it's not the Buenos Aires of 100 years ago. They advertise apartments at the Recoleta in dollars, because their money it doesn't value anything. And I don't know much longer how a dollar will value, but they don't know. But this information about the QFS, everything that we are knowledgeable about, the golden and the silver, and this information has to be like embraced to the people in a common common field, like your life. This is not about politics anymore. It's your life. Okay, you are the superhero, and superhero, I believe, comes to 78. Tom, you are the superhero of your life, not Bolsonaro.
Superhero 125, John Kennedy.
Okay, much better. So not Bolsonaro, not Trump. They're also superheroes, but each and every one of us, we are the superheroes now. We can fly, yeah, but is it necessary to fly? We have to connect, and we have to throat chakra activate, talk to everyone, don't be afraid. Okay, take the garbage off, take the, be the Christ in your life. You are Christ, we are Christ. Choose your path and do it. This is the Brazilian way. You see, they are struggling. I live in an area which is a comfortable area to live, and I still see people in the garbage every day, taking what is being thrown out as trash, what they can take to their homes. Do I like it? No, I don't. I hate this. I hate to see a person in the streets. I hate to see a dog in the streets. I hate to see a child in every traffic sign. It's very common to have children at the traffic selling things, or I don't know. And this is in our eyes. So if we go deep, and people are still afraid of this kind of talk, and Bolsonaro brought this talk to the table. And many people, oh, he's talking too much. Oh, he's crazy. No, he's not crazy. He's not crazy at all. Let me tell you a story, okay? Let's see the numbers. And it's not new, folks. It's not new. 100 years ago. Oh, let me tell you, 500 years ago, it was already happening. Even before that. So are you willing to take the truth? It's like, I'm quoting what I've heard, because you can take all these pieces and go outside and talk to your people. I know my family now, they are used to me, but if you choose your path, this is the moment of choosing, and then the sea will open in front of you. I've seen it clearly in my rebirthing experience. I'm sorry, sir, I'm talking too much. I'm very passionate about this moment.
No need to be sorry. We're enjoying listening to you.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I imagine sharing the screen with you and Tom, 2 nights of this new realm, as I told Tom, of this new realm, and I'm willing to take everyone with me. It's a fairy tale system that we are going to create with our energy. And the 369, okay, it's Tesla. Let's see, it's beautiful, trusted. This is it's going out of this buy system with black and white, and it's going three-wave system. We are taking God back to the equation, and that will make all the difference. Without it, that's the result. And we are not seeing the bad stuff. They want to see, the children suffering. They want to see this to understand the situation. And
you're describing miracles, Anna, the miraculous life. And that's a question I had for Juan, and you've hit on it, because you're talking about, a better world, a God world. Juan, I don't want to misquote you, but earlier you said about the matrix. I think you said fabric of the matrix. Is that the phrase you used?
Yeah, it's fabric.
Yeah. So I did a few things.
Fabric is matter. Fabric is matter, and the matrix is matter based. So go ahead.
Yeah, and matter is 77 Christ, rate 77, Hertz 77. So where did we get to? Here we are. Yeah, so fabric of the matrix. Fabric is 39, which is angel. Of is 21, there's 33, and matrix is 85, that's 178. But my question was, because you were talking.
Well, hold on. I can't let you go past this.
Okay.
I've said before, the other physics is based on at the core number, this 19.47, 19.5, 19.47 being the core. And of course, when you double that, fold it, you have 39. 39 is this number that relates to the reality that we're in, that they refer to all the time. You have the 13 bloodline families. The maximum power of a spell is 3 times the witch turns in the circle, 3 times they knock on the door, etc. And so 3 times the magic of the families, the magic power of the families is 39. This doubling of 19.5. So there's a lot of stuff there. But the other side of the coin is a lot of this is their little mental games, and they mutually self-promote and reassure each other that on the numbers, it's working. We've got it. It's just right. We're cooking this thing to make it a certain way, and we got it all right. And God laughs at them because they think they're cooking a stew that's, they got all the ingredients right. They're cooking it just the right time. At the end of the day, it's a lie. God has complete control of this. All of their magic numbers mean nothing before God. He will cook them with numbers they never dreamed of, do it right in their face, and turn this around. So I pay attention to the numbers. I'm aware of it as much as anything because I'm watching what they're doing by the numbers, because they telegraph what they're doing, because they keep having to get it just right on the numbers. And it gives me clues about where they are, where they're going, what their plan is, where their energy or power is going to be focused for the next move. I'm looking at them telegraphing moves because they're slaves to the numbers, the imagery. You mentioned ISIS in Brasilia. Yeah, because they have to have their imagery everywhere they go. This is a global thing for those that listen to me here in the States. I talk about all the imagery with Isis and Osiris, the Statue of Liberty and the Washington Monument, the building shapes. Excuse me, that's in cities all across the globe because this is a global work. They call it the Great Work, to control the earth and move it into a one world government, etc., that they control. And then in the course of getting there, to take out all of their enemies so that only they and their bloodline families are left. That's why they only want, at the end of this game, 500 million people on the planet. And they want us to kill each other. So the bad karma is on us. I had something dealing with something where there was a witch involved just recently. And the one person decided, because this witch was in their ear, that they needed to take this other person out. And so the witch says, well, I'll do the spell for you, but I'll teach you how to do it. You have to actually say the words to cast the spell. And the reason is because I don't want the bad karma on me. If there's any blowback on the karma, it's yours. But I'll teach you how to do the spell. I'll give you all the stuff you need, and then you do it. And if you do it right, they'll have to have it all. If you mess it up, I'm not going to be responsible. That's the devil's way. He wants us killing each other off. He wants us in civil war. He wants Brazil in civil war, just like he wants America in civil war. Because at the end of that, there's way less people. The power's gone. They're starving to death like they are in Venezuela and Ukraine. They're in the cold. It's horrible. And but the people did it to themselves, so they have to own it, and the bad karma's on them. And these witches then just want to walk in and take possession after everybody else is gone. And that was what was going on in this situation. the intent was that both people take each other out. And then the witch was going to get to own the property. This is a classic thing. And that is the way the devil himself thinks. He wants God's people fighting each other. And when the planet's half destroyed, 3/4 destroyed, 90% destroyed, 99% destroyed, he gets to own what's left because everybody else killed each other off, and he doesn't have any bad karma on him or judgment because of what happened. He just gave the whisper in your ear. The devil didn't kill Abel. Cain killed Abel because his father, the devil, was in his ear.
Yes.
So just a
39. Sorry, Anna.
sorry.
I wanted to continue with the question I had. So 39 is, and thanks for that explanation and reminder. 39 comes to 142 when you spell it out. Comes to I am Nikola Tesla. I am redemption. I am's 23. We're in the year of 23. You talked about how things that change the planet are on 23. You talked about the devil and spells and alluding to wizardry and all that stuff. I wanted to just ask you a direct question without any even number correlation. Christ told his disciples and followers that they would perform miracles like he had done, and even greater miracles. How do we perform miracles? One, that's my simple question. How do we perform miracles? Are there places we can tap into the layers of the matrix that are miracle bound in a good God way? How do we do what Christ commanded us to do and perform miracles? How do we do that?
Well, you first have to understand what your authorities are. So Adam was created by God.
Mm-hmm.
And when the 6th day was completed and Adam was created, God told Adam, this is your planet. I'm giving you the earth and everything in it as an inheritance. So we owned this piece of property and everything in it, it's yours. And then he said, the second part of that is, he said, you have authority. You're in charge of everything that creeps and crawls and moves upon the earth, every living thing. So God gave Adam stewardship and ownership. It was his. It was his. Anything, just like God spoke the earth into existence, Adam had authority to speak things into existence, to say this is the way it's going to be, and that's it. I'm not talking so much a materialization of things by speaking it as God does, but that it was his to decide, here's how we're going to do this. He took plants and he groomed the garden. He wasn't there just in the garden, lollygagging around all day. When he first got there, his job was to learn everything in the garden, how it worked. He was the greatest scientist ever. He named all the plants and the animals. It implies more than just lion, tiger, bear. That he understood each species and its alignment and relationship to other species and its uniqueness from other species, and the same with the plants. And then he groomed the garden. He got it all organized. That's why in so many cultures you have these beautiful gardens that are all set out and arrayed in a beautiful way. Adam groomed the garden, and after he learned all the species, he groomed the garden. He made it into this beautiful paradise. He said, hey, I've looked everywhere. God, you promised me that I would receive this planet as my gift from you. And there was no contingency. It was not given to him, well, Adam, if you behave yourself and you don't do this, and you don't do that, here's the keys to the cars, but if you ever misbehave, I'm taking it back. It wasn't done with condition. Like Israel, when they got the promised land, God told them, if you do this, I'll do that. If you don't do this, I won't do that. And it was all conditional. Adam received the earth and all that was in it without condition. And he was given authority over the earth and everything that creeps and crawls and moves on the earth without condition. It was his. When Adam and Eve sinned, control was conveyed because they essentially gave authority to Satan. They gave him control of their lives by letting him in a certain way. And so now they had some kind of a shared control or loss of control. So now you come forward to Christ. Christ is referred to in the scriptures as the second Adam. And when the penalty of sin, separation from God, was paid by the blood of Christ, who is perfect, nobody else could do it because they weren't perfect. So a perfect sacrifice was made, and it was God himself putting on human flesh and blood, like we put on a coat, dying in our place, and then creating a mechanism for having relationship with God again, because the price was paid and now we could choose again to serve God. The interesting thing is that that moment that we accept Christ in our lives, that we accept the payment of the penalty of sin, and we're reconciled with God, we're also restored to the same status as Adam had with God in relationship, but also to the earth as the owners and stewards, owning the earth and everything that's in it, and with authority over everything that creeps and crawls and moves in the earth, including any demons, any sickness, any monsters. A small child that understands his authority has more power over Satan than restored to the right relationship with God in the second Adam, Christ, than a person beforehand. And there is no demon. The devil himself doesn't have more authority on planet Earth than even a small child understanding his authorities. It's not a matter of being the greatest biblical scholar, understanding everything in some amazing, intricate detail, being the super scholar. I love to read, I love to research, I love to know all these things. I love the science. I love the religious studies. I love, the philosophers. I love the art. None of that ultimately gives me greater authority than a small child understanding I'm in charge. This is mine, mine. Okay, well, then you take care of it. You do what has to be done. So when a miracle happens, something is amiss in the world, in the matrix around us. We have authority from God. Christ said, greater things will you do even than I. If you say to this mountain, be moved, and you're saying it within the will of God, within the appropriate stewardship of the planet, then you can direct things in that matrix sense, and you have a control over the matter, the earth, the matter, everything that's in it, the fabric of reality. When you look at the word earth in the original, an interpretation of that is the matter itself, the fabric of the matrix in which we live. So you control the very fabric of reality. And you'd say, well, that just sounds so sci-fi bizarre. What Christ did was that bizarre. He prayed and blessed the water, and the fabric of that matter changed from mere water to wine. He commanded it to change from one nature to another. When the spirit had left a person and he's in the grave for 3 days, it completely shocked all those people there, because he even commands the dead to rise again, was with Lazarus. And so he called out to Lazarus, and beyond space and time and matter, because Lazarus' spirit had moved on, he was able to call Lazarus back into his body and call him from the grave. So this fabric of reality, when we're in right relationship with God, remember, Adam pre-sin was in right relationship with God. He had fellowship with God. He walked with God morning and evening in the garden. Would a pre-Adam person ask for something from God when there's no sin in their life that would be out of order or inconsistent with God's will or desire? So you would say now, in a restored Adamic second Adam relationship with God, if you want to have a mountain removed, is there some purpose in that that is in alignment with the will of God? There's a volcano beginning to want to erupt. It's rising out of the ocean. It's going to destroy a city with people in it nearby. A person in right relationship with God, wanting to preserve life and tranquility, etc., in an Adamic sense, could command the matter, the earth, in that mountain, and all the magma below it rising up, to stop. Maybe the energy needs to be released for overall the planet to release for earthquake purposes like that. That mountain be removed and go to this other place. That energy go to this other place where you won't hurt people, and do what needs to be done to relieve the pressure on the earth. And you might command something like that, because the earth is growing. You don't want it to stop growing. You want it to do exactly what it's supposed to do, but do it in this other place and preserve life here. You might make a command like that. I expect that there's people in this audience that may be called on to do something that wild or bizarre or seemingly ridiculous. But miracles are that level of type of thing. When Christ commanded the blind to see or the deaf to hear, he, for example, a man that was blind from birth, probably wasn't cataracts, may have had some nerve damage that was irreparably done, but he didn't do surgery. He didn't do a little mind game with rubbing the temples right and, spitting on it and, doing a voodoo act. It was a very real, tangible repair of damaged tissue, or tissue that never even generated in the first place. He commanded in the matrix that the matter form and come together in a precise way that gave him sight where he never had sight before. So speaking into existence something that wasn't there before, just as God, the God himself, he said the word and things came into existence. Let there be light. Let the dry land be separated from the seas, pulling the land out of the oceans. He moved things around. He created different forms of life, and he spoke it into existence. Part of the thing when miracles happen is that a person in right relationship with God in heaven will command a certain thing to occur a certain way and speak it into existence. If the person has some precision in their understanding, they may speak it with some exacting precision. In a generic sense, maybe it's less precise, but in alignment with God's will, just as hear, okay, hearing be restored. Well, did I tell all of the bones to be aligned, all the little hairs to come back on for the tissue. Did I get into all the intricacy? Well, I said, no. You commanded the body to come into proper alignment with the original blueprint for a human and spoke, and there's a resonance there. Even the DNA responds to resonances. They're like great big huge long series of tuning forks. I've talked about this before. So when you speak something, that resonates with other material matter that's designed to resonate with certain, frequencies, words, etc. I'll tell you one last thing before I leave. So, one of the things that's interesting when people have had a near-death experience or some kind of a traumatic experience. One of the people that I had mentioned this the other day, sometimes when people have a near-death experience, they come back and they can actually speak languages they never knew before and read them. Sometimes people will get an organ transplant and be able to speak the language that the other person spoke, even though they never knew it before, because that person spoke a different language. Somebody here was relating to me today that someone known to me, that when they had a certain near-death experience after an operation some time back, they came back able to read Latin and speak Latin, and they'd never, ever attended anything with Latin in their whole life. It was the most bizarre thing. So where did that come from? It was something, we see stuff in languages that's actually encoded in the DNA, amazingly enough. And of course, at the Tower of Babel, God confused the languages, and everybody spoke a different language they couldn't communicate. And yet in the DNA, it looks like the languages are actually incorporated in the DNA and is there available with other triggers. So there's mysteries that are miraculous in the way that we experience life day to day normally, yet because we are descendants of Adam with the same authority and having been given the same earth as descendants of Adam, because the earth was promised to Adam and his seed, that's us. If we exercise that authority within our relationship to God through Christ, through a restored relationship with God, then miracles aren't just a possibility, they're the order of the day, because our job right now in this generation is to eliminate the chaos, the damage, the destruction in the garden planet that we were given through our father Abraham. And so us taking control and command of that and speaking things into existence and working, did Adam command this plant to move to that place? I don't think that's how it worked. I think Adam carefully cleared a place for a plant, took a plant from another place, carefully placed it there with the right kind of soil, the right kind of nutrients. He learned how to do all this stuff. But there may very well have been things that he spoke into existence because he knew he had that authority at some point in time. And that's what we have to do also. We need to look at where we're supposed to be walking and moving in the physical, knowing also that we're in a matrix where we have authorities that were given to us, and things that we don't need to do in the physical may only be at some times, just like causing Lazarus to come out from the dead, may be spoken, and that's the proper tool to do a corrective action at a critical moment. There's people in this audience that I believe will understand this, and at some critical moment, understanding their authorities within this matrix. And this will sound completely insane to some people, but to the ones that are, have ears to hear, eyes to see, if you understand your relationship to God and it's restored through the second Adam, you will call people from the dead and they will be raised, and it will happen just as it did with Christ. And it won't be one, it might be 10, might be more at a critical moment, because God gave you that authority. And when you understand it, and it's the moment that aligns with God's will, if you do the voice, you say it, you speak it into existence in faith, it will be done according to God's will. And that's why you're here. That's what you're supposed to do.
Thank you, Juan. That's amazing. Is there a way that we can understand more precisely the words and phrases that we should say to bring the miracles about and be more precise?
You're if you try to get too formulaic, there was magicians that came to the apostles, seeing that they were doing these miracles in the New Testament. And they came to the apostles and they called them over privately. Look, what do you want? We'll give you, $1 bazillion if you just teach us the trick how you're healing these people. What's the exact combination of words? Is there any magic potion that you use when you do it? Should you stand on one foot? Should it be the right foot or the left foot when you do it? Teach us the trick so we can heal people like this. And the apostles told them to, beat feet, pound sand, whatever. But some came back and they understood it wasn't something to just be bought and paid for. And it wasn't just a circus act. It wasn't something that they concocted or drummed up. Sickness and disease are not God's will for the people of earth. Destruction and chaos are not God's will for the earth. If we, as the children of Adam, in an original relationship with God, what did Adam do in the garden? It had all these beautiful things in it, and then he groomed the garden. He brought it into alignment. He gave it organization. He ornamented the garden. He brought it into a type of beautiful function. We find our planet in chaos, turmoil, death, sickness, disease, evil, wickedness, destruction. And so we, as God's children, with the gift of this planet, we come in and we try to set things right according to the original blueprint and God's intention for the planet. And so we speak things into existence. If there's sickness, we command it to go. If there's damage, we command it to be repaired according to the original blueprint or design. If there's evil, an evil spirit, a demon, this is not a world that was given to them. Be it the devil himself. He may be here because some allowed him to be here at some point in time. And he may have attachment for him and his demons to people who've aligned themselves with him. And so they have some place here to attach to, like parasites. But we, in the will of God, who are in right alignment, the second Adam, the people in right relationship with God, like the first Adam before sin, we command those demons, those devils, that sickness, the wake of destruction from their presence to go and do no harm on the way out. We take control of them because it's our rightful authority. We command everything that moves and crawls upon the face of the earth, because that is our legal authority by the second Adam, Christ. When we're in a restored position to God, where sin doesn't have control of us anymore, we're not the devil's, tool anymore. So when we're thinking right, when we're working right, when we're moving right, we command those devils, and they don't have authority over us. We have authority over them. And it's like light. Darkness has no power over the light. You turn on the light bulb and it's gone. the darkness can't overcome the light. It's a physical impossibility. When God's people are doing what they're supposed to be doing, understanding those authorities, they speak evil to leave. That's why miracles of casting out demons that don't want to leave a person, and yet they're forced out. There was a woman that was possessed by a demon, and she could predict the future. And so she was running around behind the apostles saying, believe these men, and they're so great, and they are of God, and blah, blah, blah. And one of the apostles realized that this woman actually had a demon in her, and that this demon was actually distracting people with all this stuff, trying to kiss up to them and distract from their real message. And so one of the apostles commanded the demon to come out of the woman. The woman didn't ask for it, is the way the scripture reads. She was under the control of that demon. But the apostle commanded that demon to come out of her and go. And she was released from that demonic possession. Now, did she have the wherewithal, the mental acuity to be able to even rationally figure out how to make this happen, or even the authority? No. So the apostle didn't have to counsel with her, have a big talk. Did you eat a Dorito this week that was possessed? Did you ask this demon into you? Was it your parents that did it before you were born? Are you from a line of witches or future tellers or whatever? The apostle didn't need any of that. He had the authority, recognized that there was a demonic entity there, recognized his authority over everything that creeps and crawls on the face of the earth. This planet is mine. I am a child of Adam in a restored relationship with God, my Father in heaven. By the blood of Christ, I command you to go, demon, out of here. And the demon left her. That's the kind of a miracle that can be done by a person in proper relationship with God, in a restored relationship by the blood of Christ, understanding their authorities. By proper relationship, understanding their authorities and their responsibilities as a steward of the earth, bringing the earth back into a type of order and civility and peace that God intended, not the destruction, chaos, death that the devil intends right now and is trying to work out in the earth. God's people taking their authorities, taking command and control of the earth, and all the monsters. That's why I would say to America and to Brazil both, that God's people need to take control of those demon spirits that have attached themselves to people in government, and remove those authorities to bind those demons from being able to act, and to then reveal who they are and what their alignments are, and that the people that their eyes would be opened to who these people are and who the monsters are they're aligned with, and that God would restore control back to those in Brazil who are the true children of Adam, under the authority by the blood of Christ of God, Father in heaven, as the owners of this earth. Horrible things happened in Brazil. You had this John of God figure, and horrible things happened to people, women and children, and the demons got a grip on a certain part of society. And there was authorities to demons that went even into the political realm, because nobody stopped them. So what was going to stop them from keeping going and spreading out wider? God's people, the church, have to take control of those demonic entities that are working in the government through people they possess, to further control how the government runs, to oppress God's people, the children of Adam, in Brazil and every nation around it and every nation on this earth. And to the extent that God's people are doing their job correctly, we will take the possession back of the earth and eliminate the chaos, the destruction, the disease, the depravity, and bring health and fitness and prosperity, doing good for those that, may need help, just like that woman possessed who is telling the future and she's a slave. Her masters were upset because she couldn't tell the future for them anymore by a demon that was giving lying futures, and they were getting paid for it. She was freed from that internal slavery. There's a lot of people around the world in internal slavery. It's not even brought on fully by somebody external, but the demons have got them one way or another, and they need to be freed. And to the extent that they are, we will take back our planet. Those are miracles, and they're done with very precise authorities. Christ healed some people where he took mud, dirt, and spit in it and made little mud balls, put it on their eyes, told them to go wash them off in the river, and their sight was restored. Other people, he told them, just to see, laid hands on them and they saw. The mechanism was different. If you're looking for a formulaic, how do you do a miracle, then you're missing the point. There's miracles vary based on the circumstances, and then there's a divine understanding. Here's what's needed. If you're in right relationship with God, you're probably going to have some spiritual eyes and understanding that are going to help you to make the right decision how to proceed right at that moment. And it could be the difference between, I'm going to spit in the mud and put it on their eyes, and then they're going to go wash it off and see. And that guy there needs, just the laying on of hands and speak to it, and he's healed. Is that clicking for you kids?
Yes, it is.
Very much.
So, if we've got the authority, we're born with the authority. And if we're right with God, if we've got a pure heart, then do what we need to in the matrix.
Kids, I've got to head out. I've got another meeting here shortly that I've got to get to, and I apologize. You got me going, and I didn't want to leave that too open on that answer because it's a very important question. Mm-hmm. And so I apologize for going on as long as I did, but I hope that helps people. Let me just say a quick prayer for the people of Brazil right this second. Father God, there is hope in the hearts of your people. They are there at these various places making their presence known because they believe that you will work in them and restore control of their country, their place where you have planted them, their homes. You will restore that to them if they've put their foot forward, one in front of the other, and be counted present. There are monsters, there are demons, there is evil. The devil himself would like to take control of Brazil for his own purposes and bring chaos and destruction and death and need and disease. I pray that you would give a special anointing and clarity of mind to those that are given over to you, and those that would do so even right now. For every person in this audience that doesn't understand some of the stuff that I just shared, I would ask, Father God, that you would reach into their hearts and their minds, answer their prayer, and give them spiritual understanding and knowledge of you that can only come from you, Father God. There's lots of speakers out there that want to get their attention, but you yourself can make it real to them personally what truth is, and bring them into relationship with you, and also others that are in relationship with you, to restore them just like Adam to their authorities in the earth and in community to do your will. I pray that you would protect every one of those people that are in your care that have turn their lives over to you, that are protected by the
Mhm.
blood of Christ. Protect them in what they're doing, and that you would raise up law enforcement and military people and give them the right understanding of their authorities to retake control of the government of Brazil and put it in right relationship with the people of Brazil, serving the people of Brazil, not lording authority over them like masters, but serving the people to do good. And we know that there are many in deep trouble right now. There are many hurting. We pray that provision would be made for everyone, and you would bring that provision through your people, so that during this turmoil and as it's being resolved, that provision would be made through your people, Father God, for all of the nation, so that everyone gets through this and sees your presence through your people there in the nation of Brazil. And that you would not allow the enemy to have any foothold there, to gain any foothold there. And in fact, even that the turmoil that's spreading into neighboring nations would actually be led by your people, bringing sanity and clarity and peace where the enemy is fighting them at these border regions, so that it's not just Brazil, but even the region around it that is brought into a peaceful condition, a secure position, because your people are present in right relationship with you. Bring healing to Brazil. Let there be healing in the hands of your people for their neighbors across Brazil, to do good, to act in righteous ways, to bring peace and sanity where the devil wants chaos, murder, destruction, death, wickedness to prevail. We command those demons be bound in the name of Jesus by the blood of Christ, and that they be removed and do no harm on the way out to God's people. Let your people win and own the day. In Jesus' name, thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Thanks, Juan.
Wow, tremendous, tremendous, glorious. Thank you, sir. Thank you for all
Thanks, Juan.
the energy you put into this fight, your life you have been putting into this fight. I will fight this fight wherever we go, because where we go one, we go all. We are one. Thank
That's
you.
true.
Thank
This
you.
is a team effort. We're all in
I'm
this together, and there may be some that may be more readily visible where they're at different times,
Mhm.
but the reality is, I guarantee you there's people down in the bowels of the boat, in the engine rooms and in the control rooms and things like that, and they're just not seen.
Yeah.
Every single one is so critical. This is a team effort. Brazil will be saved because everybody shoulders up. When we say shoulders, it means in military sense, you close ranks, you pull together
Yeah.
shoulder to shoulder, and you power on, and you don't leave any gaps between you. And if somebody falls between you while they're getting sorted out and getting back up and getting back in the fight, you close ranks and you keep moving. And I believe that, I know
Yeah.
how powerful the move of God is in Brazil. There is a move of God that is so powerful, so intense, but people haven't seen it. But in this dark moment,
Mhm.
that's when the light shines more brightly. And I
Yeah.
know that there is an intense, brilliant, white move of the Spirit of God through his people in Brazil. And the real question is, will you be a participant in it because you choose to be on the right side of history, choose to be where the Spirit of God is moving in and through you, to enjoy that also? There's a certain satisfaction that is only something you own. If nobody else sees what you do,
That's okay.
God sees it.
Yeah.
And this is what saves the country.
Yeah,
Do your
exactly.
part and you will
Yes.
have something from God himself that only comes because you're doing the right thing. Even if nobody else in the world, nobody else on the planet ever knows it, you know it, and God knows it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Tom, for the opportunity to talk this amazing soul, and to you again here. I love you tremendously. I love you both. I always
Right.
tell to Juan, that sir, that first of all, my first knowledge comes from God, of course, from my father, straight from him to me in my heart. And then the second person that I tend to check the informations and check the heart, because that's why many people love you around the world, in this movement that we are, because we can feel your heart, and it's tangible. It's not something like just saying, no, it's all your heart in this. Thank you. I carry your heart in my heart. Thank you.
All of Brazil is in my prayers.
Thank you.
Love you all. Go get the job done.
Let's
I'm
do
looking
it.
forward to a great report. Let's get it done.
We will.
Thanks,
Let's
Anna.
finish
Thanks,
this.
Juan. Love you both. And
All right.
Juan, we'll put the links up for Jennifer for the jacket.
Oh, yeah.
We'll put your links up, Anna. And in closing, that great piece on miracles, Juan. So thank you again for that. There were some numbers that I noticed. I'll just share them. The blood of Christ is the New Jerusalem 179. The Dove Reversal 179. By the blood of Christ, you said that in the prayer, and I think before as well. That comes to 206. We spoke about that June 24th, Back to the Future Day. You said that that's the midpoint. But then a pure heart is 113, which is trumpet, which is universe. And pure in heart is 135, which is John Trump. And then you said, you talked about the mountain. So move the mountain. Move the is 88 Trump, and mountain is 107, which is Trump's, and it's quantum. But move the mountain is 195, and that sounds very similar to 19.5. So
Yes.
Thank you for that.
Yes. The power
Thank you.
number. Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have to worry about the decimal point in those things. That's a very good one. Move the mountain 195. That's fantastic.
Yeah, thank you. And point is 74, which is Jesus, which is gematria. So it was, it's all meant to be. So yeah.
All
And
right.
let's sing the song. It's not over yet.
Oh yeah, let's see. Here we go. 2020.
Oh,
It's
I don't know
not
the
over yet.
yet.
And for Brazil, 2022.
2022. It's not over
over yet.
yet. Let's bring Jennifer to a record, an audio recording. So all the ladies, it's not over yet. Thank you. You have my heart.
Not over yet.
Oh, I'll
Love
try
you
to
and
like
leave
it.
you.
That was very fun. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.
228 is the best is yet to come. The Dove is yet to come. So yeah, maybe 2028. We'll see. So thanks, Anna. Thanks, Juan.
Love
All
you. Bye-bye.
Night,
Love you.
folks.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye.